Just as Moses lifted up the bronze serpent in the desert, so the Son of Man must be lifted up. These are the words that Jesus has for Nicodemus in John chapter 3. Nicodemus was one of the rulers of the Jewish people. He was a Pharisee. He was one of the teachers of the law. And he had heard Jesus speak. He'd probably even seen him. And so one night, under the darkness, in the cloak of darkness, Nicodemus goes to Jesus. And they have a conversation. And one of the things that Jesus tells Nicodemus is he recalls that story from the Old Testament. How in the book of Numbers, after the people had been released from slavery, they're wandering in the wilderness. And the people are human, like you and me. And they begin to complain to God because of the lack of food and water. And so this angers God. They're grumbling and they're complaining. And so he sends serpents to bite the people. And they begin to die. And the people realize that they've sinned against God. They've grumbled. They've complained. They've sinned against God. And so they go to Moses and they plead with him to talk to God. And God tells Moses to take one of the serpents and put him up on a bronze pole. And whoever is bitten by the snake, if they look up at that snake on a pole, they will live. This was foreshadowing what Jesus would do. He would be lifted up for you and for me. Now, we haven't been bitten by a snake. Well, not a snake like in the book of Numbers. But there's another snake that we've been bitten by. The snake of sin, death, and the devil. And that's why Jesus was lifted up, to save us from those things. Jesus wasn't lifted up for glory, for honor. It was a place of humiliation, and a place of just of embarrassment. To be hung on a cross, a message for people to see that when you do something wrong, this is what happens. But it was here where Jesus was lifted up that we were saved from the snake bite of sin, death, and the devil. Jesus was lifted up. He shed his blood for you and for me so that we could be free from that snake bite in our lives. But the part of Jesus being lifted up is not just him on the cross. It's him being lifted up after his victorious resurrection and his ascension into heaven. So when we think of being lifted up, we can be reminded of Jesus and how he was lifted up on a cross, a place where a criminal was lifted up for you and for me. He died for our sins, and he rose from the dead, and he ascended into heaven. If you'd like to know more about Jesus and about his journey to the cross and his resurrection, please join us during this Lenten season, or you can visit us on our website at www.stmats.net.